Every month without fail, my father would have someone pry open the soles of my feet and press a South Sea pearl inside. He called it, "Every step brings gold." It was the Lin family's secret foundation. Fresh flesh would grow around the pearl, and every single step felt like walking on knives. Blood soaked through pair after pair of embroidered shoes, until my soles were completely filled with pearls and I couldn't feel pain anymore. Father gave a satisfied nod. She's ready to be married off. In my past life, 16 massive cargo ships loaded with 800,000 taels of silver, along with countless rare treasures, made up my dowry, and followed me straight through the Z family's doors. But the Z family turned around and used my dowry to cover their debts. Then looked down on me for being a merchant's daughter, saying I tainted the noble bloodline of the Marquis household. Inside that estate, I lived without proper food or clothing, mocked and humiliated by everyone around me, and in the end, I froze to death on a bitter winter night. But my last act of defiance took the entire Z household down with me. Now I've been reborn, and I wake up to find the ship I'm on is still sailing toward the capital. Yunshu sees me stir and quickly tucks a soft pillow behind my back. A priceless golden bird's nest soup had been simmering on low heat, waiting for me to wake up. It arrives in a silver-white porcelain bowl, warm on the tongue, smooth going down. I take one spoonful and just sit with it for a moment. Yunshu mistakes my pause for a lack of appetite and looks at me, worried. The journey to the capital is long. The food isn't going to be as good as back home. You've been through it, miss. Just hold on a little longer. Once we're in the capital, things will be better. I hear her say that and I go quiet. My sweet, oblivious Yunshu. She thinks not having freshly made bird's nest soup counts as suffering. She has no idea. In my last life, near the very end, I was swallowing rotten scraps in the dead of winter, wrapped in a tattered old felt cloth. That was real suffering. No way out, no way forward. Bird's nest? Back then, even a plain steamed bun would have felt like a feast. I drink the entire bowl, wipe the corner of my mouth, and tell Yunshu to call the steward Lin on over. At this point, we're still 5 days out from the capital. That same night, Ping-an sets off carrying my handwritten letter, a white jade guanyin statue, and 100 night glow pearls, alone in a small rowboat. I watch the little boat disappear into the dark toward the capital, and I clench my fists. This time, those 800,000 taels of silver are going to put me on top. As for the Z family, sit tight and wait to get buried under the debt you can't repay. Any power I can hold myself, I'm never handing it to someone else again. July 20th. The Lin family's ship pulls into the capital. Yunshu puts my veil hat on me, carefully ties my cape and helps me step slowly onto the dock. An older woman comes over all smiles, inviting me into a palanquin to head to the Z estate as a guest. In my past life, I went along without a second thought, and ended up staying the night at the Z family's request. A few days later, rumors started spreading through the capital that I had already given myself to Ziling Yuan. Lady C then pulled me aside and suggested that since my reputation was already damaged, she'd be willing to let me enter the household as a concubine. Back then, I put down my teacup and ordered Lin An to drag those rumor spreaders to the authorities. Only then did Lady C awkwardly claim she'd been confused. Looking back now, I should have called off the engagement right then and there, not swallowed my pride for the sake of keeping up appearances. Yunshu reads my expression and steps forward quickly. This auntie must be confused. Our miss has traveled a long way and needs her rest. We already have hot water and soup ready at home. Dragging her out to visit right now, isn't that a bit much? I pretend to snap at Yunshu in annoyance, then climb into our family's carriage and head leisurely toward the Lin family's estate. Day 2, Day 3. I call in the managers of the Lin family's businesses in the capital, go through the ledgers, and inspect our properties. For days on end, I keep my focus entirely on the shops, leaving the Z estate completely on ice. Technically, as a junior and Jiling Yuan's fiancé, I should have gone to pay my respects to the Z family the very next day, but they didn't send an invitation, so I wasn't about to go crawling over there myself. I'm not the one in a hurry here, and the Lin family sure isn't the one about to get questioned by the Emperor. Sure enough, by day 7, the Z estate couldn't wait anymore. They sent Lady Z's personal attendant to invite me to a banquet at the Z estate the next day. Before that attendant left, I casually handed her a pearl the size of a lotus seed. Her eyes lit up and she quietly slipped it into her sleeve without missing a beat. The Sai family has clearly hit rock bottom. They can't even keep up a front anymore. Even the lady of the house's own personal attendant hasn't seen a decent perk in ages. I call Yunshu over and give her quiet instructions, ending with, "Don't hold back on the spending. What you're handling is your miss's happiness for the rest of her life." Yunshu gives me a look. "What are you even saying, miss? Since when has the Lin family ever cared about a little pocket change?" I laughed to myself. Living around broke, bitter people for a whole lifetime in my past life, I guess it really did rub off on me. That day I dressed simply and plain. My gift for Lady C, a 20-year-old wild ginseng root. Not too much, not too little. Exactly what I had in mind. When I hand the ginseng to Lady C, I watch her face in real time, go from eager anticipation to stiff, awkward silence. Ziling Yuan's older sister, Ziejilan, couldn't help but take a jab. They say the Lin family is filthy rich, yet Miss Lin is this frugal. I guess that's exactly how you get rich in the first place. I take a calm sip of tea. The Z estate is a noble marquis household. And yet this cup of Liuan Guapian tea was brewed with leaves counted one by one. The Z family's discipline speaks for itself. I still have a lot to learn. Ziejilan's eyes go sharp, but one look from Lady C shuts her down, and she storms out flinging her handkerchief. Lady Z reassures me that Ziejilan has a temper but means well. I'd see that once I married in. I smile and say I look forward to her guidance. Just then, a maid announces that Jiling Yuan has arrived. Lady C excuses herself citing fatigue and sends Ziling Yuan to walk me through the garden. Even though I had already braced myself for this moment, the second I saw that familiar face, I wanted to rip him apart with my bare hands. I forced myself to replay how they all ended up in my last life, and finally steadied my breathing. I followed obediently behind Ziling Yuan as we strolled into the garden. Every few steps he'd turn and say something in that disapproving tone of his. A woman with a gentle, quiet nature is what people find endearing. You talked back to my older sister and made her upset. So Ziejilan ran straight to him. And Jiling Yuan came out here to fight her battles for her. Miss Gi is already married into another family. Once I marry in, I'm the lady of this house. She was rude to me. Am I just supposed to take it? Xiling Yuan opened his mouth to say something, but when he saw the cold smirk on my face, he swallowed it. If you're asking for a favor, act like it. Beggars can't be choosers. You've been way too pampered. Xiling Yuan and I walked through the rest of the garden without a single word between us. Without realizing it, Xiling Yuan had led me to a small courtyard. It wasn't big, but one look at every plant and stone in it and you could tell someone had poured their heart into it. I already knew exactly who lived there. So I played dumb. Oh, which sister lives here? Xiling Yuan snapped at me to shut up. I ignored him. A moment later, a frail woman in white stepped out. I don't like Su Wanjun, but I'll give credit where it's due. She was stunning. The same plain white robe on me just looked delicate. On her, it was graceful, ethereal, the kind that made you want to protect her. I stepped forward and grabbed her hand on purpose, then looked at Xiling Yuan. And who is this beautiful thing? She looks so fragile it breaks your heart just looking at her. Su Wanjun's personal maid looked completely lost, then moved to pull her mistress away, but I held on and wouldn't let go. Su Wanjun stared at Xiling Yuan, eyes brimming with tears, right on the edge, and Xiling Yuan looked absolutely gutted. I dropped Su Wanjun's hand and asked icily, Master Z, who exactly is she? Under my stare? Xiling Yuan choked. She is my first wife, Lady Su. Oh, is that so? I made a show of pulling out my handkerchief and wiping my hand, then let the embroidered silk cloth drop to the ground in disgust. I flashed Su Wanjun a sharp, pointed smile. So you're the one whose family fell apart, and got taken in by the Z estate as a charity case. Don't worry, I told her, all sweetness. Once I marry in, I won't make things difficult for you. You and Master Zai had your time together. For his sake, I'll make sure you're fed and clothed. The moment I finished, Su Wanjun looked like she was about to collapse. Xiling Yuan desperately wanted to catch her, but with me standing right there, he didn't dare move. All he could do was frantically order the maid. Quick, get Lady Su inside to rest, now! Xiling Yuan turned on me, fuming. Lin Jixia, does it make you feel good to be that cruel? Master Z, two families joining together is supposed to be a joyous union. You've done nothing but give me attitude. If you're that against this marriage, go tell your elders and call it off. I, Lin Jixia, am not desperate for you. And if you can't let go of your first wife, why waste both our time? I turned and walked out. Lady C's personal attendant, the one I'd given a pearl last time, spotted me from down the hall and came rushing over to escort me. I stopped her coldly. No need. Go tell your lady. If she's unhappy with this engagement, she can call it off any time. With that, I took Yunshu and walked straight out of the Z estate. Once we were in the carriage, I finally let myself laugh, using Xiling Yuan's attitude as my excuse. Perfect. Buys me a few more days without having to deal with the Z family. There's an old saying in the great Shang dynasty. Jing Hung Lin. Gold and silver piled up like trees. That's my family, the Lin clan of Jinzhou. The Lins had a gift for business, shops everywhere across the country, wealth that never seemed to run dry. But my father knew that the taller the tree, the harder the wind hits. Whether you kept that wealth came down entirely to whether some powerful family decided to let you, so he'd always wanted me to marry well, someone who could protect the Lin family's fortune. What he didn't know was that in my past life, after all his careful searching, he'd walked me straight into a den of wolves, the Jing'an Marquis estate. Their ancestors built the family on military merit, but the descendants turned out rotten and worthless, each generation more broke than the last. To keep up appearances, when it came out, the emperor showed mercy. Out of respect for their ancestors' service, he said if they paid back the 500,000 taels, the matter would be dropped. But the Z family was already bone dry. When they heard I was in the capital looking for a match, they set their sights on my dowry. My father looked at the unmarried Z-men, every single one a master of drinking, gambling, and chasing women, useless in every other way, and shook his head. Desperate, the Z family dragged in their already married son, Xiling Yuan. My father actually liked Xiling Yuan, but he already had a wife, and there was no way my father would let me be a concubine. By then, Su Wanjun's family had already collapsed. So the Z family lied to my father, told him Su Wanjun had no children and was unfilial, that she'd been cast out under the 7 grounds for divorce. They said she was dying anyway. They should have sent her back to her family long ago, but out of pity, they'd let her stay as a guest. After I married in, I found out the truth. Xiling Yuan and Su Wanjun were deeply in love, and Su Wanjun was already pregnant. She hated me for taking her place as the true wife. She pushed through the pregnancy at the cost of her own life, and on her deathbed made Xiling Yuan swear that since the child was both legitimate and the eldest, everything in the C family would go to that child. By then, every last piece of my dowry had been seized and handed over to the state. With nothing left to use me for, the Z family showed their true colors, mocking me for daring to think a merchant's daughter could be the lady of a marquis household. Xiling Yuan resented me for using the dowry to force his hand, and turned a blind eye to every insult and cruelty I faced. Every servant I'd brought from the Lin family was sold off. My quarters were isolated and desolate. At first, the Z household servants would still drop off leftover scraps. Before long, even that stopped. When I couldn't take the hunger anymore, I had to sneak to the kitchen myself to scrounge for scraps. Every time I did, the kitchen staff would laugh at me, said I was lower than the servants. On one freezing winter night, I had no coal, no blanket, no doctor, no medicine when I got sick, and I died right there in that little courtyard. The Z family was the one who wanted my dowry. Xiling Yuan couldn't give up the wealth or let go of Su Wanjun, so they took every bit of that ugliness out on me. This time around, without my massive dowry to bail them out, I want to see how the Z family plans to hold on to their title, and whether Su Wanjun is willing to let her child inherit the name of a convicted criminal. The Z family sent people over multiple times. Every time I claimed to be ill and refused to see them. Their invitations? Ignored. Every single one. Yunshu comes in to tell me Lin An is back. I put down the art of war and go to meet him. Miss, it's all been taken care of. This is a letter for you from the Prince of Chen Commandery. I set the letter aside for a moment, and helped Lin An into a chair. He kept waving me off. Lin An had followed my father since he was young, traveling with him across the whole country. He was technically just the head steward, but he'd always treated me like his own child. More than a servant. He was more like a second father to me. In my past life, Leon had seen the situation turning wrong and stood up to fight for me. The C family used the excuse of an insolent servant and had both his legs broken, then threw him out. At the time, I was drowning in my own troubles, powerless to protect him. What later happened to the Z family barely began to repay what Uncle Lin An had suffered. I sent Uncle Lin An off to rest, and only then opened the letter. Prince Chen was in the Crown Prince's camp, serving the Crown Prince. The Z family held a neutral position at court. The two families had always stayed out of each other's way, but Prince Chen and the Z family had a deep-seated grudge. Years ago, Prince Chen had a close companion at a pleasure house. One day, one of Xiling Yuan's illegitimate brothers paid the place a visit, took one look at the woman and lost his mind over her. Ignoring everyone who tried to stop him, he dragged her into a room by force. Rather than suffer the humiliation, she disfigured her own face and escaped the worst of it. Prince Chen eventually bought out her contract and freed her. From that day forward, Prince Chen and the Z family became sworn enemies. When I watched the Z family get raided and destroyed right before my death, Prince Chen had been no small part of that. Allying with Prince Chen meant hitting the Z family and climbing closer to the Crown Prince at the same time. Why wouldn't I? That very night, a dusty, nondescript carriage slipped quietly through the moonlight. Arriving at Tingyalu. Inside, Tingyalu blazed with lanterns. Countless scholars and poets filled the hall with lively debate. Some had even called for courtesans to pour wine and add elegance to the scene, swaying with drink as they painted and wrote. I brought Yunshu up to the second floor, and in the reserved private room, met Prince Chen. When he saw me, his expression was unreadable. Why would the young mistress of the Z family help this prince? I curtsied gracefully. I am still the Lin family's eldest daughter. A wise bird chooses its branch, and the mere Jingan Marcus household is not worth a million taels of the Lin family's wealth. His Highness the Crown Prince is brilliant and capable. Only a lord like that deserves loyalty. Prince Chen drained his cup in one go, clearly amused. He rose and strode out the door, his voice drifting back as he went. Rise. His Highness the Crown Prince acknowledges the Lin family's loyalty. Yunshu came in and helped me up. I couldn't help it. Tears of joy spilled over. What was the Z family anyway? The Crown Prince. Now that was the power worth attaching myself to. The most valuable thing in this world is information, and the most worthless is information everyone already knows. My father had spent his whole life cultivating ties with local officials. When it came to the capital, his reach simply didn't extend that far. Marrying into the Xi family, learning the court's factions and the private affairs of every noble house. That was the greatest asset I'd walked away with. The Night Pearl and the White Jade Guanyin that Lin An had taken were just the key to get me through Prince Chen's door. With Prince Chen threading the needle, the donation would be made in the Crown Prince's name. 800,000 taels of silver going to the imperial coffers. As for the remaining jewels, 3 parts would go to Prince Chen's manor, 7 parts to the Eastern Palace. Right now, Lin An was quietly handling the transfer of those 800,000 taels, moving them without a sound to the Crown Prince's residence. And at this point, only 20 days remained before my wedding to Xiling Yuan. I needed to break off the engagement, but without owing the Eastern Palace any favors for it. Favors spent or favors gone, and the C family wasn't worth calling one in for. The next morning, thunder rumbled, a heavy downpour clearly on its way. I stood at the writing desk, finishing a painting of autumn chrysanthemums. Yunshu came forward to tell me Su Wanjun had arrived. I told her to show him in. Su Wanjun had barely sat down before noticing that what Yunshu had placed before him wasn't tea, but a bowl of bird's nest soup. Miss Lin, what is the meaning of this? The child in your belly will call me mother someday. Even if she isn't mine by blood, it's still my responsibility to look after her. Bird's nest is nourishing, perfect for a woman with child. Go on and eat. In one motion, Su Wanjun swept the bowl off the table. You're nothing but a merchant's daughter. What gives you the right to claim the title of a marquise's first wife? I set down my teacup and smiled gently. Is that so? I can fill the Z family's debts. That gives me the right. If you keep this up, once the baby is born, I'll have it raised under a concubine's name. You wouldn't dare. My lord would never allow it. Does it matter whether he allows it? Right now, the only one who can save the Z family is me. If he can swallow his pride for his family's sake to tolerate you, he can just as easily give up this child for his family's sake. Su Wanjun's constitution was truly fragile. After just this one exchange, she was clutching her stomach, drenched in cold sweat. Right then, the person I'd been waiting for finally arrived. Xiling Yuan kicked the door open and walked in to find Su Wanjun soaked in cold sweat. His voice dropped low and dangerous. Su Wanjun saw Xiling Yuan like she'd seen her savior. My lord, unsave me. Xiling Yuan gathered Su Wanjun in his arms and turned on me through gritted teeth. Lin Jixia, don't push your luck. I'll push it as far as I like. Xiling Yuan, I'll be straight with you. The marriage agreement said nothing about me becoming a mother before I've even walked through the door. Su's child, I won't accept it. The wedding is near. If you can't give me satisfaction, this engagement can simply be dissolved. Xiling Yuan looked ready to burst with fury, but he'd already noticed Yunshu had summoned the household guards. He clenched his fist, and in the end swept out in a hurry with Su Wanjun. The moment they were gone, I turned and told Yunshu, the silver we've been spreading around, it's time to put it to work. By the third day, rumors were circulating through the capital. Su Wanjun was with child, and the young lord of the Z household had a fierce argument with the Lin girl over what to do about the baby. Buying a few loose-lipped mouths, simple enough. If the Z family could play that game, so could I. Then, when the physician visiting the Z estate was seen leaving with a pregnancy-stabilizing prescription, the rumor gained just enough credibility to stick. The Z family was now a duck roasting on a spit, trapped with nowhere to go. Meanwhile, I'd already had Yunshu let word spread that the Lin daughter had been driven to fury and heartbreak, and was now bedridden. 10 days before the wedding, the Lin family's chief steward, Lin An, came out banging gongs and drums, scattering copper coins as he went, drawing crowds all along the way. A fortune teller has declared that our young mistress has offended Tai Sui this year, and the timing is inauspicious for marriage. By order of our master, we come today to respectfully withdraw from the engagement. We apologize for disrupting the great occasion of young Master Sai's life, and offer 10,000 taels of silver as a small token of regret. Several chests were opened one by one right in front of the Z family's gate. The crowd peered in, and saw nothing but gleaming silver ingots. More than a few faces lit up with undisguised greed. Old Master Z sent someone to usher Linan inside. Just before stepping through the gate, Linan turned and called out to the crowd. The fortune teller also said our young mistress needs to do more good deeds this year. When I come back out, I invite everyone here to a banquet at Zuqian Tower. To help our young mistress accumulate some good fortune. The onlookers erupted in excitement. One person even shouted with delight. Chief Steward Lin will be right here waiting for you. I sat inside the carriage, lifted the curtain just a crack to take a look, then told the driver it was time to go. Yunshu asked me anxiously, Miss, will the Z family actually agree to break off the engagement? Whether they want to or not, they have to. I made my terms perfectly clear. Qilingyan won't truly be willing to let Su Wanjun and the child in her belly die. And after the scene today, the Z family may be shameless, but they haven't completely abandoned all face. Agreeing to dissolve the engagement gets them 10,000 taels. Refusing gets them nothing. And they become the laughingstock of the entire city. Yunshu started to ask more, but I reached over and gently pinched her cheek. Enough. Stop asking. Just wait and see. That same night, Linan came back beaming, and handed me the betrothal document between me and Ziling Yuan. I lit it with a candle, and dropped it into the brazier. Then I told Linan to station just a handful of people at the warehouse. No need for more. And if anyone came to raid the place, just run. Don't resist. Stay alive. That's all that matters. Then I brought Linan and Yunshu, and moved under cover of night to a courtyard, near the Longquan garrison barracks. Sure enough, that very night, a band of thieves broke into the Lin family's other property. They knocked out the guards, forced open the warehouse, and found that the warehouse, where 800,000 taels of silver should have been stacked to the ceiling, was completely bare. Under pressure, the guards told them that the young mistress had already donated the entire dowry. The man at the top gnashed his teeth. Donated it to whom? The guards answered trembling. To the imperial court. Every last tael is locked away in the national treasury now. Just imagining the looks on those thieves' faces, Linan couldn't stop laughing. Miss, rest assured, no one lost their life. A few guards got injured. But compensation has already been distributed. Good. Make sure the injured guards are properly cared for. That midday, a procession appeared at the front gate. Drumming and playing all the way, full of festive fanfare. I threw open the main doors, and knelt in formal attire with the entire household to receive them, calling out, Long live the Emperor. The lead eunuch read out the imperial decree. I learned then that the Emperor had learned I had donated my entire dowry to the imperial court, and had personally bestowed calligraphy in my honor, praising my virtue. A piece of calligraphy from the Emperor's own hand was no ordinary thing. Without a word from me, Linan was already bowing and thanking the lead eunuch profusely, and pressing several banknotes into their hands. After they left, Linan was so excited he immediately ordered the servants to sweep the entire estate clean. Then he carefully placed the imperial scroll on the table himself, and rushed out the door to find a craftsman to have it properly framed. Yunshu stared at the calligraphy, desperately wanting to touch it but not daring. Miss, am I dreaming? Is this really written by the Emperor himself? I nodded, so moved I could barely speak. The inscription praised a woman of noble character and virtue. With this piece, from now on, no one would ever dare look down on me for coming from a merchant family. Again, Xiling Yuan showed up the following day. If he still hadn't put the pieces together, I'd have to question whether he was a complete idiot. It was you planned all of this. Whatever do you mean, young Master Z? I don't follow. Drop the act, the broken engagement, your scheme from start to finish. You deliberately lured Wanjun to the other property. You were the one who stirred up the rumors about her pregnancy. You had the silver moved long before. You never wanted to marry me at all. And why should I have been so desperate to marry you? Your family deceived mine first. Was it not for my dowry? Or are you saying, you've suddenly discovered you've fallen hopelessly in love with me, and that without marrying me, your life is nothing? Xiling Yuan raised a finger at me, and couldn't find a single word to say. This engagement had been built on mutual interest from the start. His family moved first with deception, and got countered in return. By any measure, they had it coming. Just then, Su Wanjun came stumbling in, and immediately threw herself at my feet, sobbing. Miss Lin, please, marry into the family. I'll fan you, dress you, do whatever you ask. I'll serve you in whatever capacity you see fit, and my child will honor you as their mother. Xiling Yuan rushed forward to support her, aching with sympathy. Lanner, don't beg this vicious woman. It's useless, I almost burst out laughing. Refusing to marry him made me a vicious woman, so what did that make the two of them? Animals? I turned to Su Wanjun with an expression of genuine regret. Even if I were to marry I'd arrive with nothing but myself. My dowry has gone into the imperial treasury. If you're feeling bold, Madam Su, you're welcome to petition the Emperor to return it. Su Wanjun still looked at me with hopeful eyes. But the Lin family is fabulously wealthy. Surely they could put together another dowry for you. I couldn't hold back a laugh, marveling at the naivety. Madam Su, 800,000 taels is not 80 copper coins. Do you understand how much money that is? Throughout history, the peak of the entire nation's annual tax revenue barely reaches a few tens of millions. You open your mouth and expect the Lin family to produce a full week's worth of national revenue. That's quite an appetite. Su Wanjun clutched Jiling Yuan's sleeve, helpless. My lord, what are we going to do? It's all right, Warner. No matter what happens, I will always be by your side. I pressed a hand to my chest in mock sincerity. They say in ancient times Liang Shanbo and Zhu Yingtai became butterflies together. Today I've witnessed true love. Under the combined glare of Jiling Yuan and Su Wanjun, I had Yunshu bring out a jug of fine wine, had 2 cups poured for them, and filled one for myself. Miss Lin, I raise this cup to you both. May you remain a devoted couple together, even in the afterlife. Xiling Yuan flung his cup in a rage, and Su Wanjun was no longer weeping quietly. She was wailing outright. I watched Xiling Yuan carry Su Wanjun away, and turned to Yunshu with a bewildered look. I wished them a long and loving marriage.
Was that wrong?
Yunshu put on the most mournful face imaginable. Our young mistress has always suffered, precisely because she is far too kind-hearted. We looked at each other and smiled, then walked arm in arm back into the inner courtyard. 2 months later, even as the Z family frantically sold off property, shops and farmland, they still couldn't come up with the 500,000 taels they were short. Seeing the Z family on the verge of total collapse, their allied noble families kept as far away as possible, and those who were already rivals, like Prince Chen, moved in for the kill. Farmland worth 2,000 taels. He offered 500, take it or leave it. After all, once the family was raided, he might not have to spend a single coin anyway. The Z family's masters and young lords sold off not just their prized treasures, paintings, and calligraphy, even their beloved concubines were handed over to the flesh traders. The Z women stripped off their silks and satins, pulled the gold hairpins and jade rings from their heads. The Z family then remembered they still held the contracts of a large number of indentured servants. In those few days, the slave market in the Western District was packed beyond capacity. One day Yunshu came to me with a furrowed brow. Lady Z and the young Miss C had arrived. I had Yunshu serve them fragrant tea and pastries, took my time getting dressed, then slowly made my way to the main reception hall. One glance, and I saw Lady C and C Jalan dressed in plain rough cloth, seated in the lower chairs. The pastries on the table were already more than half gone. I almost said something about it. But then I thought, if I were in the Z family's shoes, I'd be saving every tael I could right now too. Maybe the Emperor would see the family showing genuine remorse, soften just enough and spare their heads. When Lady C and C Jilan saw me enter, they quickly stood up, stiff and nervous. I simply played along, as if there had never been any falling out between us. Gracious and pleasant, and asked what brought them to my humble home. Sister, I was foolish back then. I've come today to beg you not to hold it against me. I looked at this woman, my sister-in-law from my last life. She had taken box after box of South Sea pearls from me, pair after pair of fine porcelain, a coral tree as tall as a man, and then turned around at her husband's family home to mock her sister-in-law for being a merchant's daughter. Complained that I dragged the Z family's reputation down, made her lose face in front of her in-laws. Lady C smiled fawningly. A person of your stature, naturally, wouldn't lower yourself to quarrel with Jilan. Jilan was clearly older than me, yet Lady C was deliberately elevating my position, casting me as the elder. Lady C's fawning smile kept overlapping in my mind with her cold, contemptuous face from my last life. Every cutting word she once said to me seemed to echo in my ears all over again. I held the anger down and calmly asked what they had come for. Lady Z and Z Jilan exchanged a glance, and after a long while I finally understood. The Z family had sold everything they had and scraped together just 150,000 taels. They had come today hoping I would be generous and lend them another 350,000. I burst out laughing, laughed until tears came to my eyes. Do I look like an easy mark to you? 350,000 taels, with just the properties I own in the capital. I could put that together piece by piece. But why on earth would I help them? The Z family were ungrateful wolves. No amount of feeding would ever satisfy them. Help them once, and the first thing they'd do was tear a chunk of flesh right off your back. Seeing that they were about to say more, I simply called out, Uncle Yun. A few days passed. Uncle Yun came to tell me Shi Qilin had been cast out by her husband's family, and Su Wanjun, caught in the suffocating atmosphere of the Z household, had finally broken under the strain and lost the child. The bleeding wouldn't stop. The physician said if they could get a century-old ginseng root, there might be a chance to save her life. But the Z family at this point didn't just lack a century-old ginseng. Even if they'd had one, they would have sold it for the money. They would never have used it to treat her. Su Wanjun fought for a few days, and in the end died in that small courtyard, every tree and stone of which she had once tended with such care. Word was, the moment Su Wanjun breathed her last, Xiling Yuan vomited a mouthful of blood from his heart. When he came to, he began wailing over and over, Retribution, retribution! Xiling Yuan had gone mad. But the Emperor would not let madness earn him any mercy. The deadline arrived. Every member of the Z family was finally thrown into prison. Hearing that Xiling Yuan had lost his mind, I simply had to go see this for myself. After all, a day as husband and wife, 100 days of grace. In the dark and damp imperial prison, Xiling Yuan sat alone in his cell, a heavy restraint clamped around his neck, forced to lie face down on the ground. The warden explained, Xiling Yuan may be a raving lunatic, but they were still afraid he might lash out and hurt someone, so they put him in a solitary cell. I crouched down slowly and called out, Hey, Xiling Yuan, do you still recognize me? Xiling Yuan stared at me with vacant eyes for a moment. You're here, I'm a little confused. Is this real madness or an act? He seemed coherent enough. I thought about it and asked again, Are you actually insane? Xiling Yuan let out a dazed chuckle, and then said nothing more. I was about to leave, when Xiling Yuan suddenly spoke. Last life, I took your family's silver, and never treated you well. The moment you died, the Z family was dragged into a conspiracy charge. The entire clan executed. This life, you never married into us, and the Z family has met its original fate anyway. It seems heaven's justice is truly inescapable. Retribution never fails. My whole body jolted. What did you just say? Don't shout. Let me think. I still have upstairs. I was imitating your handwriting. Inscribed a poem and signed it as a guest. Worried your seal stamp might not show clearly enough. I even wrote your name out by hand. How did that poem go again? When autumn comes on the 9th of the 9th, my flower blooms and all others die. My fragrance pierces the sky and floods Chang'an, the whole city armored in gold. Xiling Yuan's face went white with disbelief. After a long silence, he let out a bitter smile. My flower blooms and all others die. So that was the crime of treason. No wonder, my handwriting, my name, My seal, all handed over to Prince Chen. No wonder the case was locked in iron. So, if you and I had consummated the marriage, would you not have been so merciless? I quickly shook my head. It wasn't specifically about sleeping with you. Mainly, I needed to know whether I was pregnant, and how much benefit my child and the Lin family would actually stand to gain. If you were still planning to leave everything, to Su Wenjin's child, with my child getting nothing, I'd still have used the sea estate as a stepping stone, as long as someone else offered a better price than you. Besides, your family really knew how to make a person feel worthless. Business is business. You took my family's silver and saved yourselves, but when it came time to divide the gains, you wanted to cut us out. That's not how you do business. The Z family broke the rules first, so you can't blame me for being ruthless. Uncle Yun reminded me. It was nearly time to go. I brushed the dust from my skirt and walked out of the imperial prison. Xi Yuan seemed unable to accept the truth. He broke down entirely. Watching me walk away, he screamed after me. On the day Xi Yuan was taken away, his father and several uncles had just had their heads taken at the execution ground. His mother, his eldest sister, and the other female cousins had already been taken away and sold. He and his surviving brothers, shackled and on foot, were being exiled thousands of miles to the northern frontier. Of course, that didn't include the half-brother who had offended Prince Chen. The moment he entered prison, he'd been castrated, then kept barely alive on medicine by the jailers, and today went to the chopping block alongside his father. At the start of the march, some of the brothers were still grumbling. If only he had just quietly married Lin Jixia, taken that million-tael dowry, they wouldn't be suffering like this, and their father would still have his life. Xi Yuan could only laugh at how naive they were. Did they really think the Lin family's money was so easy to take? Last life, and it was precisely because they were so arrogant, thinking they could take the Lin family's silver, without paying any price for it. But when he thought carefully, Lin Jixia had never once taken the initiative to harm them. It was their own crooked hearts that had brought them to this. Thinking that, Xi Yuan laughed through tears and screamed again, "Retribution! Retribution!" The brothers marching alongside him had long since stopped bothering, only the escorting soldiers. Watching Xi Yuan carry on like that, muttered, "Ugh, that prisoner's gone off again." The soldiers grumbling, soon, faded into the endless dust of the road leading north. The once proud Marquis Jing'an estate now stood as nothing but an empty shell, sealed off by the authorities. The nobility of the capital, when the subject came up in tea houses and taverns, were struck silent with awe. What they talked about was no longer how the Z family had embezzled public funds, but the one who had moved with the force of thunder and brought a century-old noble house crashing down. The merchant girl from Jinzhou, Lin Jixia. Overnight, I had gone from a merchant girl who had nearly married into nobility to someone everyone regarded with reverence, and no one dared look down on. Lin Anshu finished handling the aftermath, the sale and dispersal of the Zai household servants, and returned to the estate to report, "Miss, everything has been settled. Only, this old servant has been hearing that people outside are saying you are calculating and ruthless." I was in the middle of tracing a copy of Wang Shiji's calligraphy, and at those words my brush tip paused slightly, leaving a small ink blot on the paper. I set the brush down, blew the ink dry, and said slowly, "Uncle Lin An, if they were praising me for having the heart of a saint, then our Lin family right now would probably be, people, ships, and all, nothing but kindling for the Z family to paper over their crimes. When you're dealing with wolves, do you respond with a sheep's meekness? What the Lin family has today was not built on kindness. It was built on reading the moment, and cutting when it's time to cut." A glimmer of clarity flashed through Lin Anshu's clouded eyes. This old servant was foolish. Miss sees further than most. That is the Lin family's fortune. The Z family had fallen, but the eyes fixed on us like a fat prize would only multiply. From here on out, the Lin family's road in the capital was only just beginning, just as I had expected. Trouble came quickly. The other great imperial merchant family in the capital, the Zheng family, who had built their fortune on silk, had originally also been seeking to ally with the Z family, only to be beaten to it by me. Now that the Z family had fallen, the Zheng family wasn't relieved. Instead, they regarded me as a thorn in their side, believing I had cut off their path to attaching themselves to the powerful and broken the unspoken rule of the business world that harmony comes first. A few days later, the supply chains for several of my cloth shops were suddenly cut off. The cargo ships heading to the capital were being obstructed at every turn. The Zheng family was obviously behind all of it. Yunshu was furious, stomping her feet. "Miss White, the Zheng family is going too far. Should we have Uncle Lin and take it to the authorities?" I shook my head. Business problems get solved in the business arena. Go take that stockpile of top-grade cloud silk we have sitting in Jiangnan and release it at 30% below market price. "Miss, that is the tribute quality fabric we were holding, to sell at high prices after the new year. Selling it like this and we'll lose a massive amount. Never mind, you can't catch a wolf without using the child as bait." I want the Zheng family to understand. Their entire fortune isn't even enough to go to war with me. Just as the battle between me and the Zheng family in the business world was reaching a fever pitch, a gilded invitation was delivered to my desk, not from the estate of Prince Chen, but directly from the Eastern Palace. The true reward for this grand gamble was finally arriving. The Eastern Palace surpassed the Marquis estate in opulence, yet everywhere carried an understated commanding dignity. The eunuch guiding me led me to the entrance of a study, then bowed and withdrew. I drew a slow breath and pushed the door open. Inside the study, a young man dressed in imperial yellow robes stood with his back to me, admiring a landscape painting on the wall. "So you are Lin Jixia, 800,000 taels of silver, to bring down a noble house. Impressive skill, impressive nerve. This subject, Lin Jixia, pays her respects to your highness the crown prince." What I did was nothing more than protecting myself. "I dare not accept your highness's praise." The crown prince slowly turned around. His features were striking, but his gaze was deep as the ocean, as if it could see through everything. He studied me at length, then raised a hand. "Rise. Gu does not enjoy empty pleasantries. You contributed a vast sum to Gu and to the court. relieving the treasury's most urgent need, and rid us of a parasite like the Z family. You shall be rewarded. Speak, what do you want? Official rank, a title of nobility, or more wealth? This subject is merely a merchant's daughter. I would not dare presume to seek rank or title. As for wealth, to the Lin family, it is also an external thing. What this subject asks is only your highness's protection, so that our Lin family may conduct business in peace, free from the bullying of others. Clever, but what Gu gives as reward is never as simple as protection. He walked to the writing desk and picked up a dossier. The underhanded moves the Zheng family has been making against you. Gu is aware of all of it. The Zheng family is not only an imperial merchant house. Behind them is the shadow of Vice Minister of Revenue, Qian Yuanshan. Qian Yuanshan is a man belonging to Gu's second imperial brother. My heart clenched. So my commercial war with the Zheng family had already been drawn into the struggle between imperial princes. Gu can issue you an imperial decree, granting the Lin family monopoly over the salt and iron trade in Jiangnan. The wealth from that alone would far exceed your 800,000 taels of silver many times over. Salt and iron monopoly. Without question, the most profitable enterprise in the realm, also the lifeblood the court controls. But Gu needs you, within 1 month, to make the Zheng family vanish from the capital entirely, and to find solid evidence of Qian Yuanshan's crimes. This is both your reward and your oath of allegiance. The Crown Prince was testing my capability while locking me completely onto his battle chariot. I had no way out, and I didn't want one. After receiving the order and leaving the Eastern Palace, I immediately summoned Uncle Linan and told him everything the Crown Prince had ordered. Linanshu went pale when he heard it, both hands trembling. Miss, this is dancing on the edge of a blade. The salt and iron monopoly is a gift from heaven. But going up against a Vice Minister of Revenue, one misstep and our Lin family will be destroyed beyond recovery. Uncle Pingan, a great fortunes lie in great danger. My father wanted to use a dowry to buy the Lin family a powerful backer. Now I am using the entire Lin family to secure for us the most unshakable backer in the realm. Before, we were the flesh on someone else's chopping block. Now, I intend to be the one holding the knife. My counterattack came faster than the Zheng family ever saw coming, and way more brutal. I sent people to quietly buy up every silkworm and dye supply their silk business needed, cutting them off at the source. Then I leaked word that the Zheng family's silk was low-quality garbage being passed off as premium, and bribed several of their Western merchant partners to publicly return the goods and declare the Zheng name worthless. At the same time, I used my capital to stir up panic in the capital's money houses, spreading rumors that the Zheng family's cash flow was about to collapse. Every single creditor and business partner they had came knocking at once. Suddenly the Zheng estate was packed, not with guests, but with people demanding their money back. Zheng family patriarch Zheng Dehai was completely falling apart. His hair went half white in just 10 days. Meanwhile, I was sitting back at my villa, listening to Uncle Linen's daily updates like it was good news radio. Then one day, my father finally made it to the capital from Jinzhou. The second he saw me, he pulled me into the study. Share. I've heard everything. You took down the Z family, and now you're going after the Zhengs, and you've dragged the Crown Prince and Prince Yu into this too. You're a young woman. Why put yourself in the middle of all this? I poured him a cup of tea, calm as ever. Father, have you forgotten what you taught me? You said you mixed pearl powder into my kanji so I'd carry myself worthy of wealth and status. But I figured out later, real dignity isn't built out of pearls. It's built by earning it yourself. I refuse to be a piece someone else moves on a board. I refuse to let the Lin family's fortune exist just to benefit someone else. I want this incredible wealth to be the foundation that keeps our family standing, not the thing that gets us destroyed. My father stared at me, his expression shifting from worry to shock, and finally settling into a long sigh and eyes full of pride. Your old man's getting slow. You've got more guts than me and you see further ahead. From today on, everything the Lin family has in the capital is yours to command. With my father's backing, I had nothing holding me back. Dealing with the Zheng family was fish in a barrel at this point. The real challenge was the Ministry of Revenue Vice Minister Qian Yuanshan. He'd been sitting high in power for years, careful, meticulous, his books completely airtight. Finding hard evidence on him was next to impossible. I knew I had to play dirty. I had Uncle Linen dig into Qian Yuanshan's biggest personal weakness. Word came back fast. Qian Yuanshan had no interest in women or wine. His one and only obsession was collecting rare manuscripts and paintings from the previous dynasty. A slow smile crept across my face. I paid a fortune to a down-and-out noble family for a high-quality replica of Wu Daozi's legendary scroll, the 87 Immortals. I forged Qian Yuanshan's handwriting and fabricated a secret letter between him and Prince Yu, detailing exactly how he'd abused his position to divert government funds into military supplies secretly funneled to Prince Yu. I hid that letter inside a hidden layer within the scroll. Then I had Uncle Linen put the word out that the Lin family of Jinzhou had stumbled upon a genuine masterpiece and was looking for the right buyer. San Wenshan took the bait immediately. He sent his trusted steward to feel things out multiple times, and ultimately paid 300,000 taels of silver, and walked away with the scroll. He thought he'd scored the deal of a lifetime. What he didn't know was that he'd just bought his own death warrant and his master's. The night the scroll was in his hands, I got a message into the Crown Prince's palace. 3 days later, the Crown Prince made his move at morning court, requesting a full audit of the Ministry of Revenue, under the guise of fiscal accountability. The Emperor approved. That same afternoon, Imperial Guards surrounded the Ministry of Revenue and Qian Yuanshan's residence. The 87 Immortals scroll, along with the hidden letter, was found on the spot. Physical evidence, witnesses. Qian Wenshan had no way out. He was thrown in the Imperial dungeon on the spot. The Zheng family got caught in the fallout, their estate confiscated. Zheng Dehai, unable to face the humiliation, took his own life in prison. And Prince Yu was condemned by the Emperor for factionalism and conspiracy, placed under house arrest, completely stripped of any shot at the throne. This whole thing played out in about a month. I was just a merchant, and I'd set off a thunderstorm. Not only did I lock in the Lin family's position, I'd taken out one of the Crown Prince's biggest enemies. Once the dust settled, I was summoned to the Crown Prince's palace again. This time the Crown Prince himself came out to meet me. Lin Jixia, you've impressed me again. Your talents are wasted on business alone. I need someone by my side who thinks like you do. Someone who can read the game and play it. Will you stay by my side? And be my advisor? No talk of romance, just ambition and empire. I understood. Coming from a man who had his eyes on the throne, this was the highest form of respect and trust he could offer. I knelt again. This time, it was wholehearted. This subject is honored to serve your highness with everything she has. From that point on, I moved through the heart of the capital's power as the Crown Prince's official advisor. I no longer needed a political marriage to keep my family safe. Because I myself had become the Lin family's greatest protection. Under the Crown Prince's backing and my strategy, the Lin family's empire expanded at an unprecedented pace, becoming the undisputed top merchant house in the entire dynasty. And I used the Lin family's kingdom-wide business network to build the Crown Prince a massive intelligence operation, helping him gain ground in court step by step, his position growing more unshakable by the day. Years later, the old emperor passed. The Crown Prince ascended the throne and became the new emperor. After his coronation, he didn't take me into the imperial harem. Instead, he issued an imperial decree that shook the entire court. He named me guardian princess of the realm, with a noble fief, 10,000 households under my name, the same rank as a prince of the blood. In his own way, he gave me the highest honor and status a woman could ever hold. He knew what I had always wanted was never a gilded cage of imperial favor, but to stand beside him and look out over an entire kingdom with nothing above us. On the day of the ceremony, skies wide and clear, I sat at my vanity looking at my reflection, draped in a princess's ceremonial robes, still and composed. She burst into tears. Miss, no! Your Highness, you never have to suffer again. I picked up the bowl of warm snow fungus and lotus seed soup on the table and took a quiet sip. Sweet but not heavy. Warm and just right. I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled softly. Do you remember what I said? Real wealth was never about how many pearls you could swallow. It's about how many chains you could break. I set down the bowl and turned toward the door. Outside was blazing golden light, and a brand new era that belonged entirely to me.